When we analyze the mechanical hardware of the Second World War, we are not just looking at machines. We are looking at the physical manifestation of national industrial philosophies. No two vehicles perfectly encapsulate the extreme divergence between the Axis and the Allied economies, quite like their primary light utility vehicles. The German Volkswagen Type 82, commonly known as the Kübelwagen, and the American Willys MB, globally immortalized as the Jeep. On the surface, they performed the exact same tactical role. They were both designed to replace the horse. They were used for reconnaissance, officer transport, medical evacuation, and towing light artillery. Both vehicles were beloved by the men who drove them, and both achieved legendary status on the battlefields of North Africa and Europe. But from an engineering and manufacturing standpoint, they could not have been more different. The Kübelwagen was an exercise in brilliant, hyper-efficient engineering, born out of absolute national scarcity. The Jeep was a masterpiece of brute force redundancy, born out of infinite industrial abundance. While both vehicles survived the war tactically, their manufacturing longevity ratios, the measure of a platform's ability to transition from a wartime necessity to a global, post-war industrial standard, were vastly asymmetrical. The Kübelwagen, despite its mechanical genius, was an evolutionary dead end. The Jeep, however, didn't just outlast the Third Reich. It laid the architectural foundation for an entire global automotive sector, surviving in various licensed forms for over 80 years. To understand why one perished and the other proliferated, we have to look under the hood of their respective war economies. To understand the Volkswagen Kübelwagen, you must understand the dire material constraints of the German war machine. Germany lacked the vast domestic reserves of rubber, high-grade steel, and petroleum that the United States possessed. Therefore, when Dr. Ferdinand Porsche was tasked with designing a light military car based on the civilian KDF wagon or Beetle, he could not design a heavy, complex, four-wheel drive machine. Germany simply did not have the manufacturing capacity or the raw materials to mass-produce millions of 4x4 transfer cases and front-wheel drive axles. Porsche's solution was a masterclass in minimalist engineering. If he couldn't give the vehicle four-wheel drive, he had to make it incredibly light. The Kübelwagen weighed a mere 1,500 pounds, drastically lighter than the American Jeep. Because it was so light, it didn't sink into mud or sand. It floated over it. To power it, Porsche utilized a brilliantly simple rear-mounted, air-cooled, flat-four engine. This was a massive tactical advantage on the Russian front. An air-cooled engine has no radiator, no water pump, and no coolant. Therefore, in the freezing temperatures of the Soviet winter, there was no water to freeze and crack the engine block. In the boiling heat of the Sahara Desert, there was no water to boil over. Furthermore, because the engine was mounted in the rear, the weight was directly over the driving wheels, providing excellent traction. To compensate for the lack of a four-wheel drive system, Porsche installed a highly sophisticated ZF self-locking differential. If one rear wheel started spinning in the mud, the differential automatically locked and transferred torque to the wheel with grip, alongside geared reduction hubs on the axles to increase ground clearance. The Kübelwagen was a remarkably capable off-road vehicle. It was a triumph of intellectual engineering over material reality, but it was also fragile. Its stamped sheet metal body offered zero protection. Its complex ZF differential required precision German machining, and its highly specialized design meant it was built for a very specific type of warfare. Across the Atlantic, the American approach to the exact same problem was radically different. The United States military did not have to worry about a shortage of steel, rubber, or precision manufacturing. When the U.S. Army issued its requirements for a light reconnaissance vehicle in 1940, they demanded a heavy-duty, four-wheel drive platform, capable of carrying an immense payload over any terrain on Earth. The resulting vehicle, the Willys MB, and its identical Ford-manufactured twin, the GPW, was essentially a scaled-down tractor. It was heavy, weighing almost 2,400 pounds. nearly 1,000 pounds more than the Kubelwagen. It was powered by the Willys Go Devil engine, a heavy, cast-iron, water-cooled inline-4 that was aggressively over-engineered and produced massive low-end torque. Unlike the delicate two-wheel drive Kubelwagen, the Jeep featured a heavy-duty Dana 18 transfer case, sending power to all four wheels through massive live axles. It was not designed to float over mud like the German car. It was designed to violently claw its way through it, through sheer mechanical brute force. But the true genius of the Jeep was not its four-wheel drive system. It was its absolute, fanatical devotion to standardized mass production. The United States government forced Willys Overland and the Ford Motor Company, two fierce corporate rivals, to build the exact same vehicle using completely interchangeable parts. A mechanic in a muddy tent in the South Pacific could take a blown transmission out of a Ford GPW, replace it with a transmission from a Willys MB, use a wrench stamped in Ohio, bolt it to an axle built in Michigan, and have the vehicle running in hours. The Jeep was not designed to be intellectually clever. It was designed to be easily manufactured, easily maintained by farm boys with minimal training, and completely disposable. The United States churned out nearly 650,000 Jeeps during the war. Germany, struggling under constant Allied bombing and a lack of raw materials, managed to produce just over 50,000 Kubelwagens. The true divergence between the two vehicles occurred the moment the guns fell silent in 1945. This is where the concept of the manufacturing longevity ratio comes into play. How well does a military platform adapt to a peacetime civilian economy? For the Kubelwagen, the ratio was 0. The vehicle was a hyper-specialized military tool. Its rear-engine design and lack of a traditional chassis meant it could not easily be modified. You couldn't easily attach a snowplow to the front of it. You couldn't run a heavy power takeoff winch from its rear engine to operate farm machinery. When the war ended, the Volkswagen factory in Wolfsburg was in ruins. While the British military stepped in to save the factory and restart production of the civilian Beetle, which became a massive global success, the military Kubelwagen was abandoned. It had served its purpose, but it had no future in a rebuilding world. The American Jeep, however, possessed the ultimate open architecture design. Because it was essentially a box bolted to a heavy steel ladder frame with a front-mounted engine, you could do almost anything to it. Even before the war ended, Willys Overland recognized the immense post-war potential of the platform. They stripped off the military hardware, added a tailgate, changed the gear ratios, and immediately rebranded the vehicle as the CJ, or civilian Jeep. They marketed it not as a car, but as a mobile, motorized workhorse for the American farmer. Because of its heavy frame and specialized power takeoff, or PTO, capabilities, a post-war farmer could use a civilian Jeep to pull a massive multi-blade plow, power a mechanical buzzsaw to cut timber, run an industrial post-hole digger, or operate an arc welder right in the middle of a field. The Jeep seamlessly transitioned from killing fascists to rebuilding global agriculture. But the longevity of the Jeep didn't stop in America. It went viral globally. The vehicle's simple, standardized, indestructible nature made it the perfect platform for developing nations trying to industrialize. Rather than trying to export finished Jeeps, Willys Overland began licensing the design and the manufacturing blueprints to companies all over the world. In France, the company Hotchkiss began building licensed Jeeps for the French military. In Japan, Mitsubishi bought the license and built Mitsubishi Jeeps for the Japanese self-defense forces and civilian markets for nearly 50 years. In India, a small steel company named Mahindra & Mahindra licensed the Jeep to help build the infrastructure of a newly independent nation. A licensing deal that successfully morphed Mahindra into the massive, multi-billion-dollar global automotive and tractor corporation it is today. The Jeep outlasted the Volkswagen Kubelwagen because of a fundamental law of industrial evolution. Highly specialized, closed-loop designs eventually become obsolete when their specific environment changes. But over-engineered, standardized, open architecture platforms can be endlessly adapted to fit any environment. Ferdinand Porsche built a brilliant, delicate machine perfectly suited for a resource-starved army, fighting a very specific, limited war. But American engineers built a modular, indestructible, four-wheel drive platform backed by the greatest industrial supply chain in human history. The Kubelwagen belongs in a museum. The Jeep, whether in the form of a modern Wrangler, a Mitsubishi off-roader, or a Mahindra tractor, belongs to the world.